everybody, happy Sunday. Yes, it's me, it's Jez, it's Sunday, it's 11, it's live, basically means anything at all could happen. So welcome, here we are. This is still so bizarre. Now you'll notice I'm not in the normal place. I'm not at home. Today I am with Daddy Rose. So I'm at my dad's house. I'm relegated to the spare room because any room, any space will double up as a studio. So it's nice to see you. Happy Sunday. How are we all doing? Don't forget you can pop stuff in the chat if you want to pop stuff in the chat. Hey Carol, good morning. By the way, found this mug in my dad's cupboard. I love having a rummage through people's cupboards. I don't know if I told you, we were staying at Mr. Adorable's house, at his friend's house, and she collects mugs on an epic scale. Like, I mean, cupboards and cupboards of mugs, like tons and tons and tons of mugs. And I like having a little rummage to see, you know, who's got this mug. And check this one out. And I think you'll find, I mean, if there was ever a more appropriate, it should probably have a Y here to be a little bit more relevant. Who's got banana cake in the oven? Oh, that is some serious commitment. Moochie, morning Moochie. Moochie's got banana cake in the oven. But not quite ready. That is, hey Donna, lovely to see you. That is some serious commitment to Sunday Elevenses to bring you. Oh no! Talking of which, I'll have to go and get it in a second. I've got a recipe I'm going to share with you today. I haven't bought cake. I've made cake for this Sunday's Elevenses, and I have forgot to bring them because they're downstairs because it's all a bit sort of different this week. But anyway, I've just come back from Bologna. Thanks so much for your patience. I'm sorry that last week I wasn't able to do it, but I sort of didn't feel that sat on the streets of Bologna or tucked away in a hotel when it was super gorgeous was the right place to do Elevenses, and I didn't want to take all of this. Hey Matthew, hey Andrew, hey everybody, lovely to see you. I didn't sort of want to take all this kit with me because there's quite a lot of kit involved in bringing you Sunday Elevenses, so I decided to just go and enjoy the weekend. And let me tell you, if you've not been to Bologna, you need to get your gorgeous little rear ends over to Bologna for a weekend where all you're going to do is eat amazing food, the freshest tomatoes that are just mind-blowing. It makes you think, oh my word. I mean, I think the earth is different, obviously, and the nutrients that come from the earth mean that all over the world, vegetables and fruits and anything that's grown in the earth tastes a bit different no matter where you are. The classic example is Cadbury's Dairy Milk in England, or how it used to be, compared to chocolate in other countries where obviously it's hotter and they put more preservatives in it so it doesn't go off as quickly, and it's just different, right? It just tastes different. But tomatoes in Italy, I guess a combination of the earth, but also a combination of the sun. Oh my word, like it is a taste sensation. It was like a mouse, a very seductive mouse, dressed head to toe in the silkiest of clothing, had crawled inside my mouth and was rolling around inside it, sort of teasing me, and maybe with a little feather just tickling in the inside of my mouth. It was, I mean, they are something else. They're pretty unique, those Italian tomatoes. So that was gorgeous. But however, I have come back from Italy utterly obsessed with gelato. Utterly obsessed. We found the most amazing ice cream. Goodbye. We found the most amazing gelato bar where everything was made on site, no chemicals or syrups. So I had, I can't remember what it was called. It was gorgeous. It had the gelato base, so cream, milk, sugar, and then it had panna cotta, orange rind, and little chips of chocolate. Hello. I had to take myself away and just have a moment on my own. No one was allowed to talk to me or interfere. It was incredible. And then of course they blend it in a special gelato machine so the air gets inside it and it's light and fluffy and utterly gorgeous. Cannot get that out of my mind. I'm a little bit obsessed with gelato. I have no idea where that could go. Jez's gelato van? Quite possibly. Jezzy Jello bar? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, listen, I'm going to come straight into actually no, do you know what? I'm not going to come into the cake review. I'm going to pause on something. Have you seen the news this week about Patagonia? I thought this was epic. So Patagonia, I have nothing to do with them. Slide that little branding in there. This is incredible. I'm going to come to what this is in a minute, and it is blowing my mind. It is exceeding my expectations. Expectation excide. That's French. I don't know if it is French. It sounds French. Isn't it funny if you put anything in a French accent and just sort of add a le at the end? It sounds French. Isn't that funny? Le mug. Actually, I think mug is mug, so that would not make sense. But anyway, try it. So, my point, what was I talking about? Patagonia, that's right. So, in the news this week, big t-shirt, clothing brand Patagonia, a bit like I suppose North Face or any of those outdoor sporty brands. The guy who owns it, just owned by one person who's extremely wealthy, decides he's going to hand over this billion-dollar company to charitable aims. And the charitable aims are to focus on reinvesting in the environment and the world's environmental issues, so that rather than just being a company that continually makes profits that people take, he's realised, I guess, as he's a little bit older and thought, I've got tons of money, I don't need any more money, plenty to live on, I'm very, very comfortable, I'm going to be comfortable for the rest of my life now. What's the point in continually, feeding this greed machine? Why don't we do something good? Why don't we put our money where our mouth is and say, hey, you know what? We produce clothes and equipment for people to enjoy nature and get closer to nature. Why don't we encourage more of that? I mean, isn't that just epic? And it made me think a little bit about where greed comes from. And I think, to achieve anything, we all have to have a bit of drive, right? Have a bit of vision, and I guess we have to be a bit greedy. We have to, want something, or to want things to come to us in order to be successful, right? I don't think you cannot have that slightly greed mindset if you want to, get something and achieve something, but that, you're a part of achieving that. It has to be about you front and center to a degree, right? So the interesting thing is, where do you stop that? Because it's a self-rewarding sort of prophecy, isn't it? You get into the mindset of wanting or needing more all the time and growing and growing and growing, but to what means, to what end? Because at some point you're going to have tons of money, so what do you need more for when we could do more with it? And actually, you've probably heard, that really upsets me. When you hear, I don't know what the exact stat is, so don't quote me on it, but it's something like 80% or 85% of the world's carbon pollution output is produced by something like 4 or 5 companies worldwide. And it annoys me when we get penalised for not washing out our milk bottles or something like that, when actually the vast majority, me driving my diesel car around is doing hardly anything to the environment in comparison to the masses of output that these factories are churning out all the time. I drive a lot at night and I see offices with all their lights on and stuff, and you think, that is nuts. Now obviously I understand that one person driving their car around multiplied by several million throughout the whole country, that makes a cumulative impact, cumulative effect. However, the cumulative impact positively on the company would be quicker and much more significant if some of the bigger people made a stand. And I just love the idea that someone says, do you know what, I've earned a really good living from this business, and I've sort of projected where we are, I've saved my money, or I've got lots of money, or things are going to carry on coming in, I'm going to be all right. Now what can we do? Well, actually, we're here because the world supports us here, right? We weren't here first. We developed and tried to live in harmony with nature, and as David Attenborough and other people have shown, actually we're kind of not living in harmony with nature, are we? We're really struggling. Our relationship with nature is pretty fractured. So I just thought that was a really wonderful thing, and it also made me reflect a little bit on what we could all do. How does that change how we think or feel or interact with the world? And is there anything more we could do? Perhaps we should think a little bit about our own goals and aims, because immediately I thought, well, actually I can kind of relate to that position, being the multi-billionaire that I am, in as so much that during lockdown I lost 95% of my income. There was the telly stuff was all cancelled, there were no live events, there were no conferences, there was nothing. So it was very difficult. I had to strip everything right back because I couldn't employ the people. I had to let 12 people go at the farm. We had to strip everything right back. And actually, here I am still. I'm living without lots of those things that we used to sort of take for granted, really. Subscriptions and stuff that we would, engage with or buy or... And actually, I think that's a really interesting point. Yeah, Donna, that's the point. Legacies, right? It's, what's our legacy going to be? What's the impact we're going to leave? And are we okay with that? Can I go to sleep at night and think, do you know what? I'm being the best person I can be, and I don't feel guilty at all about my output. But also, I wonder whether there's an element of whether we change the way we feel about what we really need. and whether we perhaps review, there's like must-haves and nice-to-haves, and the nice-haves probably are 90% of what we have, right? The reality is we could run off in the woods. Might not be the lifestyle you want, but there's somewhere in the middle to compromise. So something to think about maybe. Anyway, listen, super exciting news. Obviously, we're not all about, dread here. It's supposed to be here as a nice, warm, cuddly hug on a Monday. By the way, do let me know how you're enjoying the new Sunday Elevenses. I know it's very different to how it was on Instagram. We're building it all the time. Every week it's getting a little bit better. There's some quite fun stuff going on in the background that I can't reveal just yet. Some sort of technically stuff that thankfully I'm not involved in. Otherwise, it would not work. If you could see this setup today, oh man. It's a health and safety nightmare waiting to happen. I don't move or breathe in case everything falls over and there's a giant electrical incident. But I want to tell you about this that I'm drinking. I have been working in the background for quite a long time to try and find a tea that I really, really love. I've tried loads of different teas, and I decided wouldn't it be cool if I could get my own tea, my own brand of tea, because I think tea's quite personal, but I'm a big champion of tea. I know that loose leaf tea creates a much nicer tea. I love being in the garden. There's this thing about being in the garden where, when you've had a hard few hours or something, you think, I'm just going to take a quick break. And there's a sort of a pause, a forced pause. It's not a quick dunk in a mug of a tea bag. There's a forced, I'm going to create a nice cup of tea or pot of tea with some loose leaf leaves. There's a bit of time that takes. And then you sit back and you look at your hard work and think, in a minute, I'll do that, I'll finish that off, whatever. That's how I use, my tea break and my 11s. And then, of course, that transferred into my normal life, as in not my gardening life, as in not my dirty life. Oh, wait, that came out wrong. But not my, I'm not covered in mud, crawling around on the floor. We're going to leave that. We're going to move on. Well, I'm not. And so I am super excited to announce Nature's Tea Break. It is here. Jez Rose has his own tea. And it arrived this week. I am super, super excited. It's a black Assam, so it's like your standard English breakfast tea. It's got a little bit of maltiness to it. It's a full body tea, like a proper tea, but it's not overpowering. I think it's the perfect blend. It took a long time. It comes in two different, it's not a sales pitch, I'm just telling you, I'm super excited. It comes in this really cute tin caddy, although apparently you're not allowed to call it a tin caddy because they're not made out of tin, so it's a metal caddy with a little sealy lid. And there's 125 grams of the golden nectar in there. Oh no, I've literally poured that all over my laptop. Okay, you'll get an actual 125 grams. Whoever's going to get this one's going to get more like 122, I think. It's all over the floor. All right, we'll sort that out. But also, I do appreciate that tea's super personal, right? It's got like a 3-year thing. Bear with me, I'm going to come to a super sexy special offer in a second. I thought I'd produce these as well. These are little 5-gram sample packets. So you've got enough there for a couple of cups of tea to see if you like it before you go for that one. So if you go to thatjezrose.com/shop, there is a very special offer, a launch offer. Woo! Party poppers, stuff I didn't have time for, yada yada. The discount code is TEAS. Of course it is. TEAS. No E. Teas, multiple, plural of teas. And that gets you 25% off of samples or tea caddies. They're ready to ship now. Enjoy it, love it, yum, yum, yum. Thanks for the good name. Thanks, Lucy. Nature's Tea Break. That's kind of what I wanted. I want people to be able to have a nice cup of tea and enjoy it. And next month, you're going to love a brilliant video. We are going to a waterfall. I'm going to go and get fresh water and brew myself a cup of tea with fresh water from a British waterfall. I cannot wait. Anyway, gang, listen. Every week at Sunday Elevenses, it is the little cake review. I think you'll remember this. And this week, instead of buying, I can't believe I did that. This week, instead of buying a cake, I have baked a cake. And earlier on this week, we sent our roving reporter, Jez, and I know there's a lot of people that do like Jez. We had a lot of letters from people saying, oh gosh, he's incredibly attractive. I can't believe this. So there is a little video. Jez baked a cake for us this week. Let's have a little look and see how this week's cake review got on. Hey everyone, I'm recording this with Woody, who is desperate. Come on, on, you big fat lump, to see what's going on now. I'm going to be making the most delicious rock cake recipe. They're so super easy to make. As you can tell, hygiene is of the utmost importance here. First things first, oven onto a fan, 200 degrees Celsius. And you're going to bake them for between 12 to 15 minutes. And they are the best when they're just very lightly golden brown. I am so flipping hungry. I cannot wait. You're going to need don't use a dog in there. That's real bad. You're going to need a non-stick tray to put them on. If you haven't got a non-stick tray, just use a bit of the grease-proof paper from the butter to rub over there. Everything's better with butter. If you've got an electric mixer like this, they take literally 3 minutes to put together and only 10, kind of 12-ish maybe minutes in the oven to bake. So there's something you can rustle up really quickly. An egg, some mixed spice, but you can not have the mixed spice if you want. 115 grams of mixed fruit, 225 grams of self-raising flour, 115 grams of butter. Get out of the fridge just so it's a little easier to mix together. And if you want 115 grams of caster sugar, or Demerara sugar works just as well, but I'm going to use honey. I really like baking with honey instead of sugar wherever possible, and it creates a really lovely moist rock cake. I said moist. Happy Sunday. Let's get cooking. So while Woody is having his dinner, first up we're going to weigh out into here 225 grams of self-raising flour. Literally just shove it in. They're so easy to make. Now we'll add 115 grams of butter. Now this butter is a plant-based butter. This plant-based butter is amazing. Tastes just like normal butter. Now's a perfect time to boil the kettle for a cup of tea. So once that's had a little whiz around, don't worry too much about breadcrumbing it. It's just to sort of mix it up a little bit so that the butter isn't quite so clumpy. It's back onto the scales to put the rest of the ingredients in. Simple. So let's add in 115 grams of dried fruit, then 115 grams of butter. Sorry, not butter, of sugar, or in this case, delicious locally sourced honey. 1 egg, which we'll just crack. Pop that back on the mixer. Now if you find it gets a little bit dry, looking a little bit dry, just add a touch of milk. And there it is, this deliciously quite pale creamy mixture that is now ready to be spooned onto our baking tray. Anybody else's mum let you lick the bowl and like you lick the beater when you're done? I used to love that. I don't do it anymore, obviously, because I'm an adult, but, you know, when I was a kid, I used to love it. This is the best baking tray I've ever bought. It's a Le Creuset tray. It was really expensive for a tray. But a friend of mine used to work for Le Creuset, and she said, oh, their trays are absolutely amazing. They're really worth the money. So I treated myself, and I have not regretted it since. That is it. Now obviously you can go for smaller ones if you want. The classic recipe now is to dust those with a little bit of sugar. I'm not so keen on that myself, so they stay like that. And they're going to go into the oven for 12 to 15 minutes. Look at how delicious they are. Can I just reiterate how incredibly easy this has been? There, I've done it. Oh, yum, yum, yum. So there you go. Sorry about that tiny little clunky bit there. Delicious, really good. And actually I was reminded, I've got one now. Oh, I just bit on a really hard peel. I was reminded, Mr. Adorable told me that sometimes I do half the amount of, so it's 115 grams of sugar or honey. Sometimes I do half and half. And actually, I remember half and half being quite nice. So if you don't want to, why did I start talking then? Just stuff I didn't know. If you don't want to put in just honey, There's a because just honey makes them quite dense, and the sugar, because of the granulation of the sugar, sort of breaks up the denseness a little bit. So maybe try half and half. That might be quite nice for you as well. So there you go. Give them a go. Let me know how they turn out. Just something nostalgic about a rock cake, isn't there? Really nostalgic. Next week is a pretty awesome cake review, and I think you want to tune in for that. Anyway, every week I make a point on Elevenses of having some sort of big idea, and I've got quite a big idea this week. I wonder, here is the thing, what you think about this thing with cake. Once you've started, it's really difficult to stop, isn't it? So, a very poor self-control when it comes to cake. Don't you just wish you were a cake? It's Sunday. I'm very tired. What was I talking about? Yes. I don't know whether it's me. I want to hear in the comments. Let me know. Do we feel that, you know, the whole keyboard warrior thing, right? So people can hide behind social media. They can hide in the comfort of their own home, and they can be really opinionated. They can be really aggressive. They can be very confident about confrontation, because of course, you know, the comeback on them is they just, you know, turn the computer off and walk away or something. And I just kind of wonder whether it's getting worse, because it feels like an awful lot more people are an awful lot more opinionated about things they know nothing about, or whether actually the balance is in the favour of social media, that, you know, it's great to connect. I'm all for free speech, and the fact of free speech, the fact of the matter is that actually sometimes you'll hear things that you're offended by, and sometimes you'll hear things that you don't agree with, and that's okay, because your own version of that might offend, or, you know, be disagreeable, or you know, less agreeable to others as well. So you know, you have to take the rough with the smooth. That is the point of free speech, is that we all get the opportunity to chat about it and what we believe in. But I wonder whether social media just to a degree exacerbates that, whether it encourages that a little bit, because, you know, we can all produce ideas and content online, and I don't know, I'm just a little worried that maybe I'm seeing a lot more of it. There seems to be a trend online. I'm so sorry. I don't know what, it's only because I've only got like half an hour with you. I don't normally, like, if you're with me personally, I wouldn't be stuffing my face full of something and then chatting to you, and you'd be like that, sprayed with like currant or something. You'd be like, I think that's yours. It's only because I'm trying to get this done and eat that. I'll tell you what, I'll leave it there and I'll come back to it later. But maybe it's just me. And I'm not saying anybody attacks me. That sort of very rarely happens. It's very nice. But if they do, that's okay. You know, block and delete are a lovely, lovely function. I don't see why we need to, you know, you wouldn't walk up at somebody in the street, would you, and say, the way you look offends me, or I don't like the look of you, or you just sort of let people be, wouldn't you? But there's this bizarre thing on social media where I see other people sort of making snide comments, or feeling the need to be unkind to other people, or unhelpful in conversations. And it does make me think, you know, we do get a choice about how we respond and what we do, and why on earth would you intentionally choose, why would your primary response to something be to be intentionally unkind to somebody? Kind of odd, isn't it? But I don't know, let me know in the comments. Is that something you're seeing? Is it just something I'm seeing? Am I getting old and grumpy? Is that what it is? Maybe. I don't know. But that's the whole thing, isn't it? As you get a little bit older, you start to, you know, things start to change a little bit. If you haven't already, by the way, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, because you'll get to know immediately as soon as we go live, but also the other videos. Have you seen, there's a new video I put up this week about eating carrots in the dark. One of my things is to investigate. I've always been interested in old wives' tales. So I've decided I'm going to investigate all of these different old wives' tales and work out which ones are real and which ones aren't. Because for hundreds of years, we seem to have, I don't know, taken on opinions and been guided by things that somebody made up. Like, they have zero substantiation. So there's a carrot one, and I tested to see whether carrots help you see in the dark, which involved eating an awful lot of carrots. And let me tell you, carrots are really filling. I can see why it worked in the war, getting everybody to eat carrots instead of sugar or stuff, because they are, I mean, oh, I felt so sorry. There was this one, I think I said this last week, last time we spoke, there was a campaign in the war where there was no sugar available. So instead of having, you know, like, what are those sugar apples and candy flosses and stuff like that. The kids, there was a carrot you could buy for 1 penny, a carrot on a stick. I mean, can you imagine being a kid and going to the sweet shop and going, sorry, there's a sugar ration. There's no sweets, but we have got carrot on a stick, and thinking, what's the world come to? What did I do to be treated like this? Donna says social media seems to have its own etiquette that you wouldn't do in real life. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But there's no reason for that. And of course, psychologically, the only reason we do it is because we have this sense of false confidence that we can hide behind. You know, we can feel we can make inappropriate or snide or unkind remarks because there's no recompense. Well, that's a very shallow and actually very poor way of dealing with life, isn't it? And dealing with people, because you're basically saying, I don't want to be responsible for my actions or what I'm going to say, so I'm going to hide and do it in a slightly more sort of cowardly sort of way. Carol says she's all for free speech, but that privilege comes with responsibility. Your opinion shouldn't be personal or insulting. Yeah, I agree. Although, interestingly, somebody pushed back on that recently, and I thought this was interesting. See what you think about this. If I say something intentionally to offend you, you know, so if I say, hey, you know, you're ridiculously tall, or look at your stupid shoulders, or, right, I can understand that. That's inappropriate, it's intentionally insulting, and it's rude. But if I say something that's my opinion, that you don't agree with and you're insulted, I don't have any reason why I should apologize to you, because that, you know, I'm sorry that you're a, but why should I apologize because you find it insulting? If I haven't intentionally said something you find insulting, then that's your issue, isn't it? It's not mine. And I thought that was a very interesting way of thinking about it. So there's this kind of grey area where, and this is the problem, is I do think there is this huge group on social media particularly who are almost waiting to be offended. It's like they're waiting in the wings, desperately analysing everything anybody says, and as soon as there's any glimmer of something that can be twisted into, you know, partly or mildly offending, they'd write on it, and you think, have you just been waiting? Is your whole life about catching people out in some bizarre way? It's very odd. Lucy says she agrees no one should be silenced, but maybe think about the effect of what you're saying to others. Yeah. Oh, Donna, talking about carrots. There's a delay on this, so you'll have to, I'm sorry, we're jumping about all over the place. Woody loves carrots, adores carrots. Carrots are his high value treat. And the breeder used to give him like half a carrot, used to give them all half a carrot to sort of bear down on and chew as they were teething. But yeah, he absolutely loves them. I'll do some videos with Woody another time. Anyway, gang, listen, we're almost at the end. So next week, we've got a very exciting cake review, very exciting. It's another delivery, and I'm quite excited. There's a few things in that box that I've not tried before, so that will be interesting. I'll maybe see if I can get you a little discount. That might be nice. Don't forget, if you're interested in tea, Teas, T-E-A-S, is your discount for 25% off just for the next 7 days. So it's a nice special launch offer. Might extend it, might not. Such a tease with an E. This is all getting very confusing. I'm going to move on quite quickly. And also next week, I'm going to dust off some magic. I have been practicing a particular magic effect, and I think I'm going to show you next week, along with a puzzle that I think I'm never going to solve. But I'd love to see what you think. In fact, maybe we'll try and do it live. I'll you know, dedicate 60 seconds or something of Sunday Elevenses for you to have a little look at this puzzle, because it is, I was doing my head in. Everybody that looks at it can't quite understand it. We can sort of vaguely understand what we think that is inside it, but it's very difficult. Maybe you can suggest something, I'll try it and we'll see if it works out. But there you go. So listen, oh God, Donna's going off to make cupcakes. Yes. Oh, bless you for ordering tea. You super lovely people. Well, listen, gang, you have the most lovely Sunday, but as always, I try to leave Sunday with something positive. So this next week, as you go, Monday morning, tomorrow morning when you wake up, of course, here in England, it is a kind of mixed melancholy, I suppose, bank holiday weekend. But whatever you're up to this next week, start your week with thinking about something that you can maybe review whether or not it's important in your life. And it doesn't have to be a physical thing, doesn't have to be a Netflix subscription, it could be time. You just think, well, you know, I always do that thing, but maybe I don't need to do that thing. How can you buy back some time for you? How can you maybe reduce some of your outgoings? I don't know. Have a little think about kind of, you know, what are the things in your life that are nice to have, and what are they that are particularly essential to have? It's, as always, a joy and a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. Have the most lovely week. Love you lots, poppets. Bye-bye.